Welcome to Yes to Fitness podcast, episode 2. So I'm here with Sam Barrett, aspiring online coach. So I'm going to get Sam to introduce himself, and we will be doing a podcast on gym and work-life balance. So this one's not so much focused on competitions, it's more general lifestyle and getting into the gym and how you can balance it around your current lifestyle. A lot of people tend to find they don't have enough time, or they feel they haven't got enough time. So we're just sort of explaining a bit more about how we got into it. Initially felt like that, but have made or dedicated time to the gym now through passion, etc. So, Sam, welcome on board.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining, and just drop us a quick introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so there's not a lot to me really. 22 years old. I'm an ex-international hockey player, and now basically I've turned to bodybuilding and fitness and online coaching. It sounds like a pretty boring story from the outside of things, but we'll delve into it a little bit more today. But it should be good fun.
Love it, thanks, Sam. So yeah, me and Sam met quite recently actually. So we met about a month ago.
Yep.
On an online mentoring course. So we are on a 6-month program, both of us, to become what we feel better online coaches through mentoring from a couple of very well known and looked up to online coaches themselves. So we only met about a month ago, but we've been speaking back and forth since then.
Yeah.
Bouncing off ideas off each other, and we thought we'd sit down and do a podcast together because we've both got similar experiences, both in similar places at the moment. So it's good to see if we have different views on our lives and our approaches, or if we're quite similar. So we thought we'd jump on a podcast and share it with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're both very lucky to be in a position to be mentored by the people we're mentored by. You're currently coached as well as mentored by the same person.
One of the mentors is my current coach as well. So,
and I've been coached by the same guy as well. So we're both in that position as well, and it's really, really nice to have that connection of we've been in a similar position in terms of we've trained with the same person, or like been coached by the same person. And been through those experiences, and now we're going through the mentoring sort of side of things. And it may be so completely separate, but it's going to be a wicked experience, and as you said, they're two of the best in the game, and it's really exciting. Absolutely. We're here to develop, and that's what we're going to do.
So we're going to jump on some questions at the end of the podcast, but I just quickly it's just popped in my head. So just want to ask you, Sam. You said you've got a coach, and you have been coached before, but you're looking to become a coach. Now, do you get the question often asked, why have you got a coach if you are a coach? Do you hear that often? Or
yeah, you do.
Yeah,
that's probably something you'll hear maybe once a week, and it's something that is probably quite obvious to us as coaches and athletes, but to a lot of people probably not. But it's really as simple as it. One, the coach is there to help you progress. If you're potentially sorting out your own program in terms of nutritional training, you may overlook certain things at certain times, and that coach is there to not do that. They're not there to necessarily be your friend or anything like that. They're there to get you results. And that's a really massive aspect to coaching, I think, anyway. And that's why I've got a coach, because I want to progress as much as I can as an athlete, and then I have other things that I do that will progress me as a coach.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I used it on my last podcast with Lucy. Every top athlete has a coach themselves. Doesn't mean that the coach is necessarily better. Like you say, it just picks up on the things you miss, and we are our own biggest critics, and we can spend way too much time critiquing ourselves than spending the time on our clients. 100%. So I totally agree, and I'll probably talk about it a lot more, even in more episodes, but it's getting that point across that it doesn't make you a less valued coach because you have another coach yourself. It's purely a decision you've made to take that time away so that they can invest it in you and tell you what to do, so you haven't got to worry about that. And again, pick up on the things you might not pick up on yourself. Because you pick up on your clients and you may spot things there, but as yourself as a person is different. You can't see what you're doing constantly 24/7. So
absolutely, and I think it's ultimately another aspect of investment, isn't it? You'd invest certain things into our coaching services and our own development in that aspect, but then you've got to think about your own investment into your own training.
Yeah, exactly.
And your own progress.
And we set an example as well. We're not sat here eating 24 bags of crisps, telling our clients that they can't have a single bag. We're doing that same process, and we're trying to set an example. And
exactly.
Even the two mentors that we're looking up to and being mentored by at the moment, they've both been there, done that, worn the t-shirt as well. So we've got to do the same thing. So
walk the walk to talk the talk.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah, just a question that popped in my head. I thought we'd chat about just for a couple of minutes, just to just to get that point across and see if you've got the same sort of idea and value about it as I have. So
yeah, absolutely.
I
don't think you'd actually find a coach now that probably isn't coached by somebody.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I see it all the time when I search coaches and I see another coach's tag on their Instagram or something, and I think, oh well, the same boat as us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that being said, I think it brings us on quite well to our first topic of conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah. So again, this podcast we said we were going to talk about our work life and our gym life and the balance between, because obviously I said recently that, or just said in this podcast, that me and Sam had only just started talking recently, and we've both come to realise that we're in sort of similar positions. We've both got full-time jobs at the minute, both looking to aspire to become online coaches, both aspiring really to have that as our primary income and our main source of income. So, you know, to push past the current roles that we're in. But it does mean that we've come from a background where we have been working a full-time job and putting in extra hours to try and develop another business, and on also training ourselves. So what is that work-life balance for us, and then how can we portray that to other people? Yeah, Sam, just give us a little brief on or overview on your current job and your sort of lifestyle around that.
Yeah, so as Ash obviously mentioned, full-time job as well here, and I work for BMW. I'm a salesman, and it can be pretty long hours, and it can be, you know, you're working every weekend, every Saturday, and 1 in 3 Sundays. So there's, you know, sometimes there's very little time to yourself and to focus on what you want to, and it can be a bit of a difficult balance at times. But I think that the crux of it ultimately comes down to, I want to progress as much as possible as an athlete and as a coach, so I have to find the time.
Brilliant.
I have to dedicate the time. It's not just a case of, I'll put it off. If you want something bad enough, you find a way to make certain things work, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that I'll take from my work-life balance, as well as other things. But I mean, you're probably in the same boat with the full-time job, and then focusing on certain other things as well. You develop this passion for it, and that is it. That is your focus. Yeah,
that's it for sure. And I think that's exactly it. Once you find that passion for it and that motivation that keeps you pushing forward, you manage to find the time.
Yeah.
And it's all about that motivation and wanting to do it.
Yeah.
So where did it sort of start for you, as in terms of training, or?
So as I mentioned previously, I was a hockey player by trade to start off with, and that I sort of fell out of love with that a little bit, and I transitioned into the gym over time.
Okay.
And that transition was a bit of a. It was almost like I didn't know I was doing it at the time, if that makes any sense. I was just going because I enjoyed it, and I wasn't really thinking about it too much. And then as time progressed, I joined up with Jace, and I was coached by Jace, and made some awesome progress with him. And then it just got my mind thinking, this is what I want to do.
Brilliant.
It was a very quick transition in a way, because I didn't know I was doing it to start off with, and then it clicked in my head. This is it. This is where it needs to be. This is where I want it. This is what I want to do. How did you find, like, what made you start?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I was working crazy hours a couple of years ago, you know, 100 hours plus, and I still wanted to go to the gym. I enjoyed it. I just had no direction. I would go to the gym a couple of nights a week, maybe 3 times if I could fit it in. I loved my training, but did I have a good diet? No. Were my sessions on point every time? No. And then I kind of knew I had the passion for it, and then signed up again with Jace, like you said, your coach initially.
Yep.
And when I was given that structure, and then started seeing results, my passion then grew even more. So I then started thinking, hang on a minute, I need to back off the work life to create some time for me, because that was my passion, that was my hobby, but also now it's grown into what it is now. So
yeah, absolutely. I think when I first started as well, it was off my own back, and I was sort of guiding myself in the right direction with it. But I think even then, you reach a certain point, and you need that extra pair of eyes. You need that extra somebody to look at you. You know, with a check-in, having that extra feedback from somebody that's been doing it for years, day in, day out, is invaluable. So I started off on my own, just doing my own training, my own nutrition, made some awesome progress. But then I got to a certain stage where I felt like my progress was stalling slightly.
Yeah.
And I needed that extra push. And then that's obviously when I started with Jace, but just fueled things even further. Jace was more than a coach. It was more for me, if anything else, obviously. Progressed training-wise, but progressed me hugely in terms of my mentality at the same time.
I think that's it. I think you can start with an online coach at any stage. You know, you can start with an online coach because you have no idea.
Yep.
Where you need guidance right from the beginning.
100%.
You can have an online coach because you're making some good progress at the gym, and then you want to now transition into something even more.
Yep.
Or you can be doing amazing in the gym and then get a great physique and then feel like you're stalling. And then again, you can go and find an online coach for that. So
Exactly.
I think there's so many points you can start as an online or go to have some support. You know, you don't have to start right from the beginning.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be your first day in the gym when you get an online coach. I mean, it can be, but it can come from any sort of angle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now, knowing what I do now, I wish I started with a coach before I sort of got going on my own.
Yeah.
I did the very much, I want to go to the gym and I want to train chest, I want to train arms. I
Yeah.
bet I didn't touch legs for about a year.
Yeah, same as me. Literally.
Honestly, I regretted that from the very... the first leg session I did in the gym that I joined was with my girlfriend, and she absolutely battered me, and it ruined me. And I wish I knew what I did now, and I would be so much ahead of the game as to where I am now. That being said, I needed to learn that to know what I know now.
Yeah, that's it for sure. And it's you know, I was the same as you, Sam. Like, if I was to skip a day in the gym, it would be legs.
Yeah.
And I wish I didn't do that now.
Yeah.
But that's when I joined and had a coach and given a split, and I made sure I stuck to that split. So I did them sessions even when I didn't want to initially. And like you say, you don't jump into an online coach and have 100% motivation straight away. No. It can develop, and we have days where you feel not great, and you have days where you feel amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the same when if you don't have a coach, or if you do have a coach. But the amount of knowledge and direction I was given is invaluable, I find.
Yeah, absolutely.
From having a coach.
100%. And I think you made a really good point of you're going to have bad days and good days, whether you're training with your own knowledge or whether you're training with a coach's knowledge. Even at the point of, you know, you're prepping now, the likelihood is you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah,
you're going to have a good day. Top coaches, you know, Jace, I'm sure that during his prep he'll have a bad day, a good day. It's going to happen, and I think too often you see people get rocked by it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it will really put them off for like the next few days after that. But the massively important thing is you pick yourself up and you go again, and that's where having that guidance can just give you that extra bit of a nudge. You know, you send them a text and you say, I had a bit of a bad day today. That's fine. Brush it off, go again. Yeah. Just having that extra bit of a confidence boost, you know? That's a big thing to it as well.
That's brilliant. And I just want to jump back to a point we spoke about earlier, as in, you know, you're in a full-time job.
Yeah.
You said how busy you were working 1 in 3 Sundays, etc. Did you use that as an excuse to not go to the gym, or has that mentality changed? Because you're still working.
Yeah.
Obviously, your full-time job now, but you've made a lot more progression now. So what was the change there for you?
To a certain extent, yeah, there probably was the excuse of I don't have the time at the very beginning of when I started out. Now, and a lot, a while ago is probably when it all clicked for me that it was a distraction from work as much as it was a hobby of mine and is exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You need these times away from your structured routine in terms of work and things like that. Nobody needs to live in their workplace.
No, for sure.
So for me, it was a massive release. Actually, you know, I'd go to the gym and I'd forget all about everything that I did that day, and the only thing that mattered to me at that time was what I was doing in the gym.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's exactly the same for you, really.
Yeah, it really is. It's exactly the same. So we're in the same boat there. I just want to sort of ask the question, you know, what would you suggest to a sort of client? You know, you have a client come to you who aspires to have a physique in mind, which, you know, then if we're honest, they're nowhere near, say.
Yep.
But you know they can get there with the right dedication. But they seem to have the excuse of, you know, oh, my work's too busy or my life's too busy.
Yeah.
Have you got any pointers for someone like that? Because again, I was in the same boat. Like I could say, you know, I'd be working 100 hours, maybe not even 100 hours, maybe 80 hours, but would make an excuse to not go to the gym. From that, but had aspired to have that physique, but now you look a year down the line, my life's completely changed. So what would you suggest to sort of a client like that?
I think it's obviously got to start with a very honest conversation about the goal. To start off with, you know, time frame, expectations and things like that. But I think the biggest thing that I have found through my own personal experiences and with a few clients actually is finding the why. You know, the why you're doing something. What made you want to make that decision? Is it something you've seen? Is it something you've spoken about with somebody? Is it something that you genuinely are passionate about? And finding that why is ultimately going to drive you through everything. Because you know, you have a bad day and you don't want to go and step on the treadmill and do 20 minutes of cardio. That's no longer in question because your why is too big that this whole I don't want to do it is just out the window.
I love that. Yeah.
And that is always my biggest suggestion is, you know, you find your why, and ultimately, yes, you plan your day, you get around the things you've got to do and you find time to do stuff, but the why is the biggest thing out of anything.
Again, I love that, and I think that is the biggest thing. So for me, you know, you've got that why, that is your biggest driver, and it's not silly to have it written down, it's not silly to think of it every day. And then my second point is to plan the day. You know, if you plan the day, if you know you've got a busy day ahead, but you know you want to get on the treadmill for 20 minutes, If you don't plan that day, you'll get to the end of the day and realise, oh shit, I got up at 6 o'clock and I didn't have time to get on the treadmill. Whereas if you had written that day out the day before, that night you would have gone, if I get up at 6:30, I'm not going to have time to get on the treadmill because my day's too busy. So I'm going to get up at 6 and then spend the 20 minutes there. So, you know, for me, there's that why, and it drives it down to the planning. If you really want it, you'll plan your day to then fit them bits in that achieve the why.
Yeah, 100%. It's reverse engineering everything, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, it is.
You know, you've got this goal. How do I achieve that? So if I've got to get up 20 minutes earlier to get 20 minutes of cardio in, just do it.
Yeah.
The goal's there and you know how to achieve it. It's simply just doing it at that point. Yeah. Everything's there and in place for you to achieve it, It's purely down to yourself then to go and do it. And I think that is massively valuable as well. It's on you. And that's the best bit, because you're responsible for what you do, but ultimately you're going to reap the rewards at the same time. So if you don't want to put the work in, that's also fine, but just know you won't reach the same results.
Exactly, yeah. And that's being honest with yourself, isn't it? And being honest. And that's sometimes where a coach can come in and help, because they can be honest to you and let you drive it into you to get these points out, to know what you need to do to achieve it. And, you know, becoming an online coach isn't just sending a nutrition diet. It's not just sending a training diet and go and get on with it. You know, these points are also factored in, isn't it? You know, have a conversation with the client to understand why they're not fitting the training sessions in, understand why they're not doing the cardio. And if they're honest with you and they tell you they're not doing it, then you can work together to understand why they're not, and implement it as well. So, you know, it's not just an online coach, here's a diet.
No.
There's
so much more to
reverse engineering with them,
and
making sure these goals are hit to achieve your goals.
Absolutely. If you've got a client that says to you, okay, I haven't achieved my 3 out of my 5 cardio sessions this week, you as a coach have a responsibility then to reverse engineer it again and say, okay, how can we optimize everything that we do? So is the cardio session too long, first and foremost, so you don't have time to physically fit it in? Can we make these shorter but more regular? Things like this.
Exactly,
so you're always trying to find a way around it.
They're all tailored plans, and we had this conversation on the last podcast. You know, do you prefer more cardio, more food? You know, for me, because my life is now dedicated to the gym, I prefer more cardio, more food, because I make the time for the cardio so I can 100%. Eat more food. But, you know, if you've got a lifestyle client who works 12-hour days and they don't want to get to the gym for an hour a night to do cardio, then, you know, there's a lot of other factors that you can include, reduce the food, etc., to achieve the same goal but just in a different way. And it's, again, that's why everything is tailored to a person. That's not why you can copy Joe Blogs in the gym, because they might look the same as you, they might be the same weight as you, but they might have a completely different lifestyle. So
no one thing is going to be the same, is it? Because, you know, I might finish work at 2 p.m. and you might finish work at 8 p.m. I'm going to have a hell of a lot more time to do cardio than you are.
Exactly.
So all of these things have to be completely tailored and bespoke to you. Nothing's going to be the same. None of my clients will be on the same routine, because it simply wouldn't work. It wouldn't be feasible. They wouldn't achieve the results they want.
You know, when you get a client, you don't send out a program and say, right, okay, you want to join me? You're going to do 6 days a week in the gym for 2 hours a night. And we'll see how we go from there. You know, that's not how it works, is it?
No,
you know, for me, if my coach told me that, that's what I do, because that's what I do anyway. But
absolutely that.
Not every client is going to receive that, because not every client can achieve that.
No. And that's bang on, isn't it? You know, you have to be honest with your coach to say, okay, this is working, but this isn't. And then you have to approach it of, okay, this is what we do now to achieve this. It's not just saying, I've missed it, you know, I'll make up for it next week.
That's it.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
If you're not honest and communicating the entire way through, and that's the coach's responsibility, they've got to be in touch with you absolutely all the time. You know, one thing I remember from being with Jace is that he was always chasing me up. He was always asking me a question. How is this? How is that? How is this? And by having that constant communication, which is something we both offer, it allows you to understand so much more about an individual, to tailor it even further than the very beginning. Because you've got to remember, at the start of a program, the coach doesn't know you very well to start off with. So to think, you know, he's put me on this plan and it isn't working, he's not right for me. Give them a chance. Talk to them and see how you can make this work and adapt it and things like that. Because nothing's going to be perfect from the very beginning. Nothing is. You know, you look at massive corporations. Apple wasn't perfect from the beginning.
No, exactly.
And you know,
that's such a valid point.
It's such a stupid example. I know that, but it's been progressive all the way through its lifespan, and that's what a coach needs to be as well.
Yeah. As well as the client as well, isn't it? It's the 100%. Same. It's a two-way thing.
100%. So what I was going to say was, obviously, motivation can be a massive thing for some people. How do you motivate a client that potentially isn't seeing the results that they initially wanted in their head?
I think it's being honest with the client in their goal from the beginning. You know, if they come to you and they say, I want to look like this in this time frame, and you know it's not feasible, don't sell that dream.
Yeah.
And again, some people work differently on motivation, so you have to adapt to your client. Some clients like the straight up, you need to improve this.
Yeah.
Whereas another client might take that as offence.
Yeah.
So it's learning your client as well. And I think that's why an initial consultation is very good. A good way to understand whether the coach is right for you, almost. Because
absolutely.
although you can adapt as a coach to individuals, you sort of have your way, and you're set in stone in a way of how you coach your clients to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how would you motivate a client? It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you want every client to achieve their goal, but you know, if you're sending a plan and they're sticking to the plan and it's not working for them, then you need to change it up. But you don't want to just change it up completely. You know, you need to. You sometimes have to spend time to identify what's wrong, because you know you can't just, because it's not working for them, give them a complete different diet, because then it seems like you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And it's just maybe that client hasn't found what works for them yet, because everyone is different. So it's making them stick through the times. And you might see smaller drops in some people. Some people's genetics are very different. Some people drop weight a lot easier. I know for me, as soon as I go in a diet or a deficit, I drop weight like crazy. Putting it back on is the difficult part for me.
Yeah, I'm very similar.
Exactly. So, you know, we're similar in that way, but then you see other people competing in the same sort of class as I am, and they're absolutely huge. Yeah. Before they start dieting, but then they start dieting 20 weeks out because they struggle to lose the weight. So it's the same as a lifestyle client, you know. It is. They can be different in different areas. So finding the motivation is keeping them on board, keeping them stuck to the plans, and communicating with them to let them know why you think it's not working, to suggest different ideas, you know.
I think as a coach as well, it's a bit of an awkward question, isn't it? Because it's almost a trick question in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Because so much motivation will come from the client at the same time.
It's a two-way battle, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, it's the client's responsibility to be able to get themselves out of bed and to do what they need to do.
That's not an online coach's role, is it?
Exactly.
You know, you're not there 24/7 to make sure they're at the gym.
I'm not
or
setting
doing
your
the
alarm
cardio
for you.
No,
you know?
it's it. So it is a two-way thing, but
Absolutely.
you can give them as much motivation as possible.
Yeah, of course.
Through your ways of coaching and
I think
communication.
Ultimately, results are a motivation too, aren't they?
That for me, this is a point I've written down, is my motivation was driven through the results I started to see. When I was training 2 or 3 times a week, I thought I looked good back then. I was happy with how I was, but then I started to see some results, and I was like, wow. Week on week on week, I got more and more motivated and more motivated to then change my lifestyle to get even more results. And that's just driven the whole last year. I'm still getting more motivated now as I go on.
Yeah. And that's, you know, you're in the middle of a prep at the moment, aren't you? And that's a massive mind game of prep, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Week on week, you'll see drops, you'll see progress in certain areas, and that alone is motivation to do the next week.
Yeah.
You know, so putting it all in from the very beginning, and you know, putting as many steps towards your goal as you possibly can is ultimately going to lead to more motivation down the line.
Yeah, for sure. And it's good to understand that not everyone has a great week. I remember I was prepping for a show in April. Obviously, it got cancelled because of what we're in. I had a week where I was away in Belgium. It was a tough week for me. I was travelling, driving at like 2 o'clock in the morning to get to the destination. I was sticking to my meal plan. I think I was on like 1,350 calories. Like, I was on low calories. I was like nervous to find a gym because I couldn't find a gym near me. All this stress. I managed to find a gym. It took the whole day out of me. I was up for like 16, 18 hours a day, every day, trying to like get everything fitted in around the job I was doing in Belgium. And then I got on the scales that week and I dropped 0.0 kilo. And I thought, how? How? That wasn't a good week for me. I got on the scales the next week and I dropped 3 kilo. I think it was just the factors of stress and lack of sleep, etc. All of this added up to just having a bad week when I stepped on the scales. So
absolutely. And there's so much more to coaching now, isn't there, than you know, photos and measurements and weight and things like that, because you now have to consider stress levels, you know, hydration, sleep, recovery. All these factors have a massive impact on how much you're going to progress. And as you say, you had an awesome week in terms of I've ticked this box, I've ticked this box, I've ticked this box. But I was stressed as hell, and you didn't drop it anyway.
That's the thing. My training and my nutrition the 2 weeks was exactly the same.
Yeah.
The different factors were the stress, the sleep, the main
routine.
factors, but and the routine.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I've had occasions where I've done exactly the same for a week, not dropped any weight, and then Jace at the time actually went, "There you go, have a cheat meal," and I dropped about 2 kilos after having
that,
a burger and chips. And to me, at the time, that made no sense. But now it makes perfect sense. Your body's stressed. Your body needs to relax,
it needs the glycogen, doesn't it?
Exactly. It needs all of these different energy sources as opposed to what you've been giving it. And there's so many ways that you can approach something. There's no, it is what it is. There's no one way to do something, is there?
No, exactly.
There's so many ways you can approach something, and you can nail it for 1 week, and your body can be stubborn as hell at times. It can be stubborn as fuck, and it's about understanding that these things take time. I had a client that was with me for 2 weeks and saw no drops. 3rd week, they dropped like 3.5 kilos in a week.
Yeah.
And it's just all of a sudden because their body's gone, oh, okay, yeah, no, I need to do something.
That's it, but you've got to push that client through them 2 weeks where they're seeing no changes.
Absolutely.
Because as a coach, they're going to be thinking this isn't right. Or they're going to lack motivation because of them 2 weeks. But when you see the results, that's when they think the motivation kicks back in. Absolutely,
and it's all about assurance, isn't it? So there's been times where I've been coached by somebody, and there's times where I'm thinking, this doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
But then that coach gives you the assurance that is needed, because the approach is, if you want to lose weight, it is eat less, do more.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very good start point. And a lot of people get focused on, I need to lose a certain amount of weight per week. Some weeks you'll lose nothing. Some weeks you'll lose half a kilo. Some weeks you might lose 4 kilos. It's just going to depend on so many factors that you just need to stick with it and learn your body throughout the process, especially if you're starting out, because you realistically know nothing about your body at that period in time.
Yeah. And you've got to understand why you're going to an online coach. It's because you need the support. So listen to that coach. You may think what they're saying isn't quite right, but you've gone to a coach for a reason, because you don't feel like you feel like you need some support, or you feel like you don't have enough knowledge. So listen to that coach and what they've got to say. Yeah,
absolutely. I think thinking about training splits and regularity and things like that as well can be a massive thing. And you've written down a good point here of you don't need to be in the gym 6 days a week for 2 hours on the pop.
No.
I remember when I first started out, and as I said, I was doing chest and arms, and that's all I wanted to do. And I'd probably do that for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then I'd try to go back in the next day, and I'd be battered. My recovery
but you still do the same thing.
Yeah. And my recovery was absolutely through the floor. But, I recently as well, I've gone to an upper-lower split and things like that have been less frequency. And my progression's gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good point that we can touch on, actually, is that you don't need to start off by doing what Arnold did and go to the gym 6 times a week and train for 2.5 hours.
I think if you listen to Dorian Yates, he says how he never trained like Arnold did. He would train 3 or 4 days a week, maybe, for an hour.
Yeah.
He's talking even at his most competitive season, because he was so intense in his training sessions when he done it, and he knew he needed the rest. Yeah. That's all he needed to do. So, it works differently for everyone.
Yeah, it does, and that's coming from the biggest guy to have ever walked the planet, pretty much. The recovery is I would probably say as important as your training, if not more.
Yeah.
You can go into the gym and beat yourself up as much as you want to, but unless you listen to your body recover, it means jack shit.
Exactly.
It means nothing.
And that's why, if you are checking in with your coach and you say you're tired, be honest. If you are tired, say you're tired, because it obviously relates back to what we were just saying, how important recovery is. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It needs to change. If you're on a 6-day split and you're going, actually, I'm really knackered from this, then it needs to change. So
yeah, and ultimately, that's the client has a massive part to play in that, as you say. Yeah. It's, if you are feeling tired and you have had a leg day here and you've got a leg day in 3 days' time, and you come to do it and you still can't pick a water bottle up off the floor,
which happens.
It does happen far too often. You need to be honest, and you need to say, look, no way am I doing these squats and that hack squat and all that sort of stuff. You need to be honest, because ultimately in 2 days' time you're going to be able to go harder than what you got on now.
Yeah.
So it's having this constant communication that just says, look, I hear what you're saying, I need to listen to my body and recover, and ultimately your coach is going to learn from that at the same time.
For sure. Learn more about you as well.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the main thing, isn't it? You need your coach to understand as much about you as possible to keep progressing.
For sure.
Which is a really, really important point.
I think we're going to jump off this topic now, and we're just going to briefly touch on competing, because as Sam said, I am currently in a prep stage at the minute. Sam isn't at the minute, but I just wanted him to talk briefly about his view on competing and his current thoughts, and is he going to be competing? Let's find out, Sam.
So let's hit the bombshell of, am I going to be competing? Yes, I will be.
Great.
I was originally planning on doing the June show, the PCA first time
this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was cancelled.
That was cancelled. And I approached it from the point of view now of I can use so much time now to progress in that way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I almost took it as an extended improvement section of, I'm going to cut down initially, because I went through a long phase of bulking. I did about 11 to 12 months of bulking.
Oh, okay, big phase, yeah.
Big phase. And with that, it comes a little bit of untidiness. So I'm now cleaning up, go from there and reassess, probably to compete in 2021.
Cool.
It obviously gives the opportunity of everything we've got going on to pass a little bit. But at the same time, I love competing. Yeah. I've not personally competed, but I love watching it. I love being around it. I love being involved with it, because it's not your typical sport that you see a lot of people getting involved with. But you hear a lot of people talk about football, cricket, Formula One, all these things. Bodybuilding is still a sport in that respect. You still have to push yourself physically and mentally to achieve the best results you can.
Yeah, you have to be your greatest, which in any sport, to be successful, you have to be your greatest, and you have to outdo everyone else that's trying to achieve that same goal.
Absolutely that. And how have you found your prep so far?
So, obviously, you understand that I was prepping for an April show, so I started 14 weeks out for that show because I was at a bigger stage than I was now. So I started that prep at 81 kilo at 14 weeks out, and I didn't adapt my lifestyle for what was to come.
Right.
I found it hard. I got to 4 or 5 weeks out, and I wouldn't say I'm struggling, because I pushed through it and I was still enjoying the process.
Yeah.
But it was hard, real hard, and I don't think I expected it to be hard as it was.
Yeah.
But then that show got cancelled. Again, I was going to go for the June show, so I stayed relatively lean after that.
Yeah.
And then found out that was cancelled.
Yeah.
And then I was saying on my last podcast, I think I was 15 weeks out then, which now would have been 17 weeks out, because the show's been delayed 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So as we sit here now, currently 9.5 weeks out.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually really dropped the hammer, shall we say. I haven't started massively dieting. I've dropped a tiny bit of food, but nowhere near what I was 9 weeks out last time.
That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm really, because I'm going in 9 weeks out full of energy.
Yeah.
Smashing gym sessions. Yeah. Absolutely buzzing and looking relatively lean at this stage. So how am I finding it at the minute? Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Absolute excitement. And I'm ready for the hammer to drop. So I am ready for food and the dieting phase to come. But to be in this position now, I feel blessed, because I feel really grateful that I'm in this position, and I feel grateful that I had a good off season and didn't get to the stage that I was last time.
But I think ultimately, it's going to come down to the fact that you communicated with your coach throughout the entire period. You put yourself in the best position possible to be in the position you are now.
Yeah.
It would have been very easy to say, right, we're going to compete end of 2020 and let's bulk up now. But instead, you've decided to maintain where you were so that you're in a better position come the start of prep.
That's it. And it's not as though I don't know if anyone follows me on social media, etc., or has followed my stories. I ate a lot of good food during lockdown. The cheat meals I had were big, and I was giving them frequently, and everything was good. I still enjoyed the process. It wasn't though I felt like I've been dieting since April. Yeah. Because I really don't. I've had a great off season and managed to stay in good shape. So I'm feeling great at the minute. But
and that's key to it.
It is all part of the process, making it as easy as possible for your prep, because
absolutely
it is a tough time.
Yeah.
It is a tough time, and obviously you'll come around to that next year.
Yeah, good fun games.
So we'll jump on another podcast next year and ask you 9 weeks out how you're feeling.
Yeah, see if we're in the same position. But it's refreshing to hear, isn't it? Because you hear so many people talk about a prep and they're like, it blew me out. I absolutely struggle with it. But to put yourself in the best position from the start is so important, isn't it?
For sure. It's something I never sort of envisaged in the previous prep.
Absolutely.
Or run up to a previous prep. So
I've wanted to ask this question. We've got it noted down, but I wanted to ask the question anyway. What inspired you to compete? Because it's not your average thing to do.
Yeah, so this is the thing. If you'd have asked me, what are we in now? August. If you'd have asked me in August last year, are you going to get on stage? My answer would have been like a laugh and then no.
Yeah.
Then seeing the progress I've made has inspired me to see how far I can actually push my body.
Yeah.
And I've just fallen in love with the process. I've watched it, and I think the sport is easy to sort of look from the outside and think, why are people doing this?
Yeah.
Why do people want to get their body looking like that? Because I almost was that person before I understood it.
Yeah.
And then when you understand the dedication and the consistency and the passion people have for the sport, you then soon realise that this is a great sport.
Yeah, it's seen as an extreme, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But then every sport at its ultimate level is an extreme.
Absolutely.
Because people dedicate their life to it. So
Yeah.
that is an extreme in any way, shape or form, you know. And this sport is no different.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think that's just where my motivation come from, is seeing my progress, and it's ended up being that now I want to get to the level of being able to step on stage. So,
and again, that's refreshing, because in a world that we live in now, it'd be so easy to go onto social media and say, I want to look like that, but instead it came from your own progress, which is even better, because then you're still progressing even more to the point of you don't know where you can take yourself.
That's it. And I think, again, you know, being honest, I think if people were to look at a photo of me a year ago in August, which is on my social media, they'd say that I'd be nowhere near in a position to step on stage next year.
Yep.
So I think, you know, things are achievable when you put your mind to them, and when you dedicate your time and the effort to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's essentially what it comes to, isn't it? It's a patience game.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not judging yourself with other people. You know, if I compared myself now to myself a year ago, you know, I'm two completely different people.
Yeah.
And if I was to go into a gym looking like I was a year ago and comparing myself to someone that I'm competing against now, then, you know, it's that sort of mindset. You set your own time and do your thing, and don't judge your progress of other people, because that's when progress goes horribly wrong. You know, judge your progress off yourself.
Yeah.
Have you progressed from last week? Have you progressed from last month? If you have, you're stepping in the right direction.
Yeah.
Don't judge your progress of how that guy looked a month ago.
Yeah. And you don't have to be with a coach to know how you're progressing.
No,
There's so many simple ways. You know, you can step on the scales, you can take photos, take measurements, feedback on yourself. So, you know, how has my sleep been this week?
Yeah.
Has my sleep been pretty shit on Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I trained terribly?
Yeah.
These
Judge
little
that,
things, these little things you can start to learn about yourself before you step into the world of coaching. You can start to learn these things without a coach, but the coach will ask for these things from you.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, really important. But as you say, you've got to enjoy the process, which is the main thing, isn't it?
That's it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
Exactly that.
So I think we're going to talk about a couple of questions now. So we put out on our social media earlier today announcing that we're doing this podcast.
Yep.
And we said, if you've got any questions, then drop them in the question box. So Sam, you've had some questions, and I want you to answer a couple of them that are asked, and I can answer a couple myself if you want. So fire away what you've got.
I've actually got a few that are aimed at you, at me, and both of us.
Okay.
So there's actually one that does say aimed at Ash, which is fair enough. So we'll start with that one. Is how did you come up with your company name?
Yes to Fitness. So, okay, this is a good question. This is really interesting. I was not sure on what to call my company at all. So I dropped it in my family group chat.
Yep.
I dropped it in another family group chat with my extended family.
Yep.
I dropped it on a group chat with my friends from work, and just said, here's some suggestions, or give me some suggestions. And Yes to Fitness was actually suggested by my mum.
Yeah. There you go.
So I got my mum to thank for this. Thank you, mum. But I wanted it to be sort of more broad and attractive to lifestyle clients. You know, it's not Ashlee Whiteman Bodybuilding. Because, you know, I'm not ready to train the best athletes in the world yet. You know, I want to get lifestyle clients that started off in my position a year ago and get them to not necessarily where I am now, but improve them. So Yes to Fitness, I think, is quite an inviting, quite broad name.
Absolutely. And
so that's where it came from, and I thought, that suits.
And something that's really impressed me with it is obviously you've spoken about your journey a lot, and that's something that you can transpire into your own coaching, isn't it?
And that's what's made me want to do online coaching, is because the passion I now have for how much my life has improved through this process. I would love to share that and improve other people's lives as well. Yeah,
and that's a massive, massive thing. We'll move on to another question. How did you both find returning to the gym after lockdown? So I'll kick this one off. It was pretty tough, to be honest. You know, there was certain gyms opening, certain gyms saying we're going to open a little bit later, remain closed, all these sorts of things. And there's now, you know, not Pure Gym, DW now saying they're going into administration. All these things are adding towards potentially a little bit more stress around it. However, I changed my approach to the gym. So before I was push-pull legs, I was that approach all the way. And now I'm push-pull legs upper lower, so I'm less frequency. So I'm putting myself in a different position to progress. I think if you if we stopped the gym doing one thing, I think you'd be very silly to go back into the gym doing exactly the same thing in a way, because I think you're missing out on a certain amount of progress. So that's the way I approached it, and I've actually found it beneficial to approach it in a different way.
That's really interesting.
I mean, I don't know about you. Obviously,
yeah,
you're on prep,
well, for me, so I finished being in the gym on prep.
Yeah.
So I was on a push-pull leg split, and I re-entered the gym back on prep. So
yeah,
I've re-entered on the same training program that I left the gym with, purely because I'm on prep. I thought I was training hard during lockdown.
Yeah.
I think I saw progress.
Yeah.
Then I walked into the gym, trained for a week, and realised, shit, I needed the gym.
My DOMs are unreal.
And that's one thing I said to my clients was, please do not push yourself too hard.
Yeah.
Probably hypocritical, because the DOMs were horrendous.
Yeah, you do. You say to your clients, look, go back in at 60, 70%, ease your way back in. I went back in there and I tried to do stuff that I was doing before.
Yeah.
I walked out of the gym, I was like, fuck, I'm ruined.
Yeah, literally.
I can't do that. And it's, it was a weird approach, because I'm not saying it's a bad thing to approach it the same way you did. I think if you're somebody that was struggling as gyms were closing, now is a perfect opportunity to look to change it up.
For sure, exactly that. I think you're dead right. And if you've made some sort of progress through lockdown, then well done to you.
Spot on.
For the first point. But then again, don't go back to what you were doing before. No. Adapt it. If you've gained something from lockdown, then change it up and keep progressing. So like you say.
And I've seen a lot of people use lockdown as an opportunity to progress things like your execution of certain movements.
Yeah, for sure.
And your form. And I was very lucky that we managed to source some equipment, so we had 100 kilos worth of weights and a bar and stuff like that. So execution of movements was a big focus for me, because now I can go back in and I know my execution's bang on. I may not be doing the same weight, but my execution's there.
And you will progress more that way.
Exactly.
100% you will progress more that way.
Exactly that. And this is actually a question: push-pull legs or upper lower returning to the gym? So
there you go.
I've said my thoughts on it, but I mean, I loved the push-pull leg split. Personally, I loved it. I ran with it for a long time. I ran with it for the 11 months I was bulking. So it worked perfectly for me.
Yeah.
And it's obviously something you're carrying into prep.
Yeah, so I started last August. That's August a year ago is where I mainly started hitting the gym hard.
Yeah.
It's been a year's transition, really. And for the first 9 months of that, I'd done a 5-day split. Mm-hmm. So I would do back and buys, chest and tries, a day of shoulders, a day of arms, leg day. And that's a split I ran with for about 9 months. And it was only probably about 4 weeks out of prep when I changed to push-pull legs, and that's what I ran with for the whole of prep. And then again, like I say, that's what I've returned to now. So.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll probably do this as our last question before we close things down. But it's a good one. What are your 5 top tips for somebody who's starting their fat loss journey? Okay,
so 5 top tips. My 5 top tips would be: 1, set a goal.
Yep.
An achievable goal.
Yep.
2 is track your progress, and only your progress.
Yep.
As long as you're achieving week on week, that's the progress you need to make, not compare yourself to anyone else.
Couldn't agree more.
3, don't jump into too much of a deficit. And what I mean by that is, if you're starting a fat loss journey, don't go from eating 5,000 calories a day, as an example, to going on 1,200 calories a day.
It's just not achievable.
It's diet down progressively.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably be my number 1 point.
Yeah.
Point 4, it's probably a bit more in depth, but I would say point 4 is, for someone that's on a fat loss journey, hydration.
Oh yeah.
Is such a key point for someone on a fat loss journey.
Yeah.
So your water intake, it may be overlooked, and I think it is overlooked sometimes.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think that is one of the top 5 up there.
Yeah, 100%.
And then 5 would be, a more generic one would be, enjoy the process. If you're not enjoying the process, then something needs to change, because you should be thriving and getting motivated off of the results you're seeing, not driving yourself into a position where you're not enjoying losing weight, because that's when you'll yo-yo. You'll get to a point where you think, I've done 10 weeks now, fantastic, and then you'll drive to the McDonald's drive-thru and you'll be there for the next 5 days, and everything you've just achieved in them 10 weeks has now been reversed.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more with those, to be honest. Especially, your accountability, I think, is huge. So, I'll go through my 5 points. Number 1, as you say, I would probably put it as enjoy.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, without enjoying it, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And you won't do it.
That's it.
If you don't enjoy it, you may start something off, but if you get to 3 or 4 or 5 weeks into a diet plan, you'll think, fuck this, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So you've got to enjoy it. Number 2, I would say, is accountability. Now, if you're with a coach or if you're not, as you said, tracking progress is huge. So you've got to be accountable for that.
Yeah.
That's the massive thing, isn't it? You can do something, but unless you're tracking what you're doing, or you know your start weight and you know the sort of rate that you want to move at, you've got to be accountable for this, and you've got to be accountable to get up and do your cardio, and you've got to be, you know, these sorts of things. Number 3, to be honest, I would say is look at coaching options.
Okay.
Because there are many different things to coaching. It's not just paying for a nutrition and training plan.
No.
If you're somebody that doesn't understand your body, give somebody the opportunity to learn that for you and help you do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, I'm going to start with this coach and look, this is the goal and that's the only thing I care about. You've got to learn about your body.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're a female as well, learning about the cycle and things like that, hugely important.
And they have a massive effect. You know, you can get on the scales one day, and then you get on the scales the next day, and then the week after, and they can be completely different, especially with a female.
Absolutely. So understanding these things is huge. That's where a coach can come into play, and it can be massive.
Yeah. Especially for your mindset as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, I would say, is remember your why. So there's a reason why you've started it. So that reason should be enough to drive you to finish it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know, you start out with okay, I've started at 80 kilos and I want to get to 70. Perfect. You know, that's what you want to do. You now have your why you're doing it. It may be because of whatever reason, but you now know that this is how you need to achieve it because that is what's driving you. And remembering your why is massive. Yeah. I cannot recommend that one enough.
Brilliant. I love that.
And then number 5, I don't know, because we've said quite a few points, but I think it's find people around you that are willing to support you do it.
I love your 5 points, and they're very in depth, and they're so right. I sit here and listen, and I'm thinking I need to change my top 5 because, again, that last point you've just said there is spot on.
I think without having the people around you, that's a detrimental effect in itself.
If you've got people around you saying you don't need to lose weight, and that's being drilled into your head every day, you're gonna cheat on your plan. Or someone goes, you don't need to lose weight, have this, have that, have this, have that.
Or why do you spend an hour in the gym every evening, whatever it may be?
Exactly.
You know, having people in your corner that are going to say, you know what, get up and do your cardio.
I think it's a good point, and I'm just going to jump in. I think people are often scared to be in the gym environment, but everyone in the gym is there for the same reason, to improve themselves. So
bang on.
It's not a scary environment. People aren't judging you in the gym as such.
No.
Although you may feel they are, they're not.
No.
They're there for the same reason you are, and they want to support you. If I see someone in the gym struggling, I want to help them. I may be looking at them because I want to go and help them, not because I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an opportunity for everybody to learn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stepping into a gym environment can be quite daunting.
That's it. It's true. That was what I was getting at there was you're surrounding yourself with the people around you that can help. So talk to the people in the gym because they're there for the same reason. They want the same goal as you do. So
yeah, absolutely.
So we've covered some great points there, and I think a few questions have been answered. There's a couple more. So maybe if you have asked a question and it hasn't been answered, drop us a DM on either Instagram or on our emails, which you can find on our Instagrams, which we're going to suggest now. So Sam, where can people find you?
So I have my personal, my main page, which is Sam Barrett, BARRETT, and then 2 underscores, and then I have my coaching page, which is Coached by Sam, with an underscore. So really nice and easy to find. I follow Ash, so if you're a follower of Ash, you can go on there and find me on there. But yeah, as he said, any questions missed or anything like that, pop them across and we'll do everything we can to answer them.
Brilliant. Yeah, so the same as me. So I've got 2 accounts. So Ashlee Whiteman is my first account. It's my personal one. Ashlee is spelled ASHLEE. Nice funny spelling. Yeah. Or you can find me on my coaching page, which is yes2 fitness with the number 2 underscore Ash ASH. So nice. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you found this useful. I hope guys that are maybe nervous to have a coach or don't quite understand the value of a coach maybe understand a little bit more now. And as well, if you struggle with your life balance with work, or you have the excuse that you work too much or can't get to the gym, then hopefully you've learned a little bit from this, that it's the way you take your approach. And if you have a big enough why, if you really have a burning desire to have a better physique, you'll find the time. And that's what it will come down to, isn't it? And ultimately we're here to help as well. You know, if you have a question about anything we've been through today on here, or
you've tried something with your diet or your training that you're not quite sure about, drop us a message. We're not gonna try and sign you up there and then. We want to give you advice. We want to help you. We want to help as many people as possible. So just message us, and we'll do everything we can to help.
So for sure, and I love that point, and we will.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you for having me on. It's been awesome.
No, thank you, Sam, for joining, and we'll probably catch up again with Sam maybe next year when he's going into his prep.
Yeah.
See how he's getting on, maybe sooner. But guys, thanks for tuning into our episode 2 of our Yes to Fitness podcast. And like I say, we are here on Instagram, or drop us a message on the video, and we'll get in contact with you through there. Maybe we'll move on to social media, etc. But
yeah, of course.
Thanks for joining, guys, and enjoy your evening.
Cheers, guys.